Alright, let's get started with number 1 on your worksheet. Okay, here we're doing rational exponents, meaning all that means is fancy way to say, hey, we've got a fraction as an exponent. Okay, here's your problem. Alright, before we can do anything, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get rid of that exponent. Before that, I've got to make sure that this is isolated. So notice on some of those, if there's no sign here, that means I'm multiplying. I'm going to have to divide. Here I've got negative 2 plus v plus 16 in parentheses. So in other words, I'm going to have to move this negative 2 over. We'll do that by using inverse operation. And so I'm going to add 2. Okay, that's all we do. Then on the left side, you're going to have v plus 16 raised to the 2/3 equals 16. All right. I know that's hard to see. That's 2/3. Now, let's have a little discussion. I've got to get rid of this. Now, what you've been doing is you've had a radical. Remember, a radical as an exponent is 1/2. And so to get rid of that, we square it. Now think about that. Why would you take a 1/2 and square it? Well, it's so that this radical, or basically this goes away. Because remember, how does this look like as a radical? Okay, this is going to be, remember, out front, so I'm going to have v to the 6 raised up, 3/2, all that sort of stuff. So what you have to do is you have to multiply the other side, or basically raise the other side to the reciprocal. If I raise both sides to the reciprocal, then this is going to eliminate, and it's just going to be 1. And so since this is 2/3, I want to take both sides by 3/2. Okay, 3/2. If I do that, those up top cancel out, and then I'm okay. I've got v plus 16 equals 16 raised to the 3/2. Okay, now from here, we actually have to figure out what is 16 raised to the 3/2. Okay, so remember, numerator stays as an exponent, denominator goes out front, and so now I've got v plus 16 equals, remember, 2's out front, it's just a radical. Radical 16 cubed. Okay, now here's where it can vary based on what you have. If I've got a radical, what's the square root of 16? It's not just 4, it is negative 4 as well. So I'm going to have to split my problem in half, basically. I'm going to have one where v plus 16 equals 4 cubed, and I'm going to have one where v plus 16 equals negative 4 cubed. Okay? Because I could have two, now I'm going to have two potential answers, because radical 16 could be either 4 here or negative 4. So let's move, we'll just do the same steps on each one. I've got to cube it, okay? Now remember, cubed, 4 cubed, 4 times 4, 16, times 4 again is 64. So v plus 16 equals 64. Over here, negative 4 times negative 4 is 16, but again times a negative 4 gives me v plus 16 equals negative 64. All right? Subtract your 16s from both sides. We'll go ahead and do those. Same step all the way across. Okay, and 64 minus 16, v equals 48. So 48 is one of my potential answers. And negative 64 minus 16, and v equals negative 80. All right. Now, for those of you that are wondering, you've been to the previous stations, you want to know if you have to check your answer. You don't. You don't have to check your answer on these. Now, you might not necessarily always get two different answers. You're only going to get two different answers if you're only squaring a number, because remember, a cubed root, two things. One, you could have a negative in the radical, because a negative times a negative times a negative is a negative. Also, it can't be either one. It only has to be a positive or the negative version. So if you have a squared, or even just any even number on your radical, you can have potential two answers. Any times, like for example number 2 on your worksheet, you're doing a cubed root you'll have one answer. That's it. Okay, so my answer to number 1 is 48 negative 80. So with here, there you go. So with here, remember, step 1, all right, I'm going to isolate whatever's raised to the rational exponent. That's step 1. Step 2, all right, I'm going to multiply, or basically take each side by the reciprocal. So here it was 2/3. I'm going to take the reciprocal 3/2. From there, you could maybe potentially get 2 different answers, all right, but I've also got to simplify here and then solve my answer. Those are your 5 steps. All right? Okay, good luck. Let me know if you got any questions.